What's up, Mech fans, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are once again going to be talking about Mobile Suit Gundam GQuuuuuX, beginning the theatrical release of the first 3 episodes, and today we're going to be ranking all the characters that appear from worst to best in a tier list. But before I dive into that, please do leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, head on down to the comments section below before I get into my ranking. Let me know your favourite characters that appeared within this film and which ones are you most excited to see as the series progresses. If you've watched any of my tier list videos or any other tier list videos for that matter, you guys will know the drill. We've got S, A, B, C, and D tier, starting off with our lead character, Amate Yuzuriha. Now, I think that she's established as a pretty good lead. Now, I'm not fully invested in her just yet, but, this is at the end of the day, the first 3 episodes of what's going to apparently be a 12-episode series, so there's a lot more development and learning about her as a character to come. But I think she's got a nice, energetic attitude. I like the kind of street smart nature to her, and she's an entertaining protagonist. And sometimes, especially within Gundam, I enjoy having that kind of protagonist that, they can get shit done. They are kind of badass in some places, but they're also really fun to watch. And Amate is just a great example of that. Like I said, she's not top tier just yet, but I'm comfortably putting her right at the top of A for now. Next up, though, we do have Anki, who is kind of the leader of the Pomeranians, which is the clan battle team that Amate does join. And I think she's a pretty solid character. I kind of like how they've established her as someone who, kind of has her opinions about the way that the world sees things, maybe in a little bit of a negative light, but also she's got that kind of motherly protectiveness to her, if you will, where she seems like the kind of person that will look out for those that are on her side. I do like her character in that regard. I think there's some interesting things they could do with her, especially her relationship with Amate, because you kind of get the feeling that Amate's mother, who we'll go on to in a little bit, is somewhat maybe absent, not necessarily absent emotionally, but she's not always there. You don't really see her a lot in these first 3 episodes, and I feel like Anki could very well fill in that kind of mother figure role for Amate, so it'll be very interesting to see how their relationship develops. But for now, I'm putting Anki into B tier. Next up, we've got our first returning character from the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, and that is Cameron Bloom, who you guys probably remember was Mirai's fiance within that original series, and also was, quite high up within Side 6. Of course, this series does take place on Side 6, and I think he's the aide to the president of Side 6 within this series. I'm going to put him into D tier. He has a very brief appearance in this, but he really doesn't do much. His appearance is essentially oh yeah, here's this guy that you guys might remember from the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. So not a whole lot that he does in this series. Sure, it was cool to see him as a returning character, but I never really cared too much about him in the original series, so it was just one of those cases of oh yeah, that guy. Then we've got another returning character from the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, and that is Challia, and this is one of the greatest glow-ups we've had in Gundam, and probably that we've had in anime, quite frankly. If you look at Challia in the original series, he's in 1 or maybe 2 episodes of that, and this guy looks really old, even though he's in his mid-30s. But man, this guy just looks so much better. The character design, I just think is far better, and definitely matches someone who would be, mid-30s, maybe even going into 40s. But also the glow up in terms of characterization, they have taken a character that is relatively nothing within the original Gundam series. I think he has a more substantial role in the manga, but in terms of the series, like I said, he's in it for 2 episodes. There's a role that he has there, but in terms of how much he's in the series, it's really not that much. Here, though, he is kind of framed as the main antagonist to some degree. He's a massive character in the series anyway. He's a very major character, and I absolutely loved him. He was my favorite part of these first 3 episodes by far. He's got a suave nature to him, but also he's just willing to do stuff. He's willing to kind of forego the rules and kind of take things into his own hands a little bit, but he does it in such a way where it just feels effortless. He is one of those characters that looks effortlessly cool and also acts effortlessly cool. So I'm really excited to see more of him, see how they develop his character and dive a lot more into him. But for now, like I said, he's my favorite part of these first 3 episodes, so I'm going to put him in S tier. Now we move on to arguably the greatest Gundam character of all time, and that is Char. He is essentially the face of Gundam. When you think of human characters within Gundam, he is the most recognizable. He's probably the most well-known, and to see him within this set of episodes here was awesome. He's very much like the lead within the first essentially episode that kind of recounts the 1-year war, and it's more so from his perspective in a way, and that was really awesome. But just getting to see Char again, especially like in a new project, was just fantastic. Like, he is all-time great in terms of Gundam characters. Like I said, there is definitely an argument to be made that he is the best Gundam character of all time, one of the most interesting, probably the most well-known, most recognizable, all that kind of stuff. And just seeing him back was great. Also, shout out to the person who was voicing him. I know it's not the original voice actor, but he did a fantastic job at recapturing the kind of I want to say the energy, but Char is kind of like an energyless character in a way. Got a very deadpan delivery in terms of his dialogue, but he managed to capture that so well. And I would argue to some degree, kind of fits a younger Char a lot better because there's a bit more of a youthful voice that he has to him, but the delivery is still the same. The sound of the character is still the same, just kind of sounding slightly younger. So massive shout out to the voice actor for this. But I mean, come on, it's Char Aznable. He's awesome to see, and especially seeing him get into Pilot Gundam and just being a total badass like the Red Comet is. S tier, obviously. Now, he probably would be at the top, but like I said, Challia was my favorite part, and he was in a lot more of it. And also, Char was just kind of usual Char, which is certainly not a bad thing, but also they didn't really add new things to the character, if that makes sense. Nonetheless, though, it's Char Aznable, of course he's got to belong in S tier. Next up, we got Comely Harcourt, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. She is part of Charlie Bull's team. As soon as I saw this character, I was like, I like her. I don't know anything about her, but I like her character design. I like her personality and energy that she has. I do like the dynamic as well that she has with Charlie Bull. So I'm interested to see more of this character. I thought she was a solid addition. Didn't really do a whole lot in these first 3 episodes, so I'm hoping we'll see a lot more of her. But nonetheless, I just thought she was a solid addition there, so I'm going to put her in B. Next up, we got Conch, who is Shuji's robot crab companion thing that sits on top of his head. It's just a robot crab. Like, it's kind of cute to look at, but in terms of characterization, there's literally nothing there. But I'm going to put it in C because it's kind of fitting, C, Conch, but also I do like his design. Next up, we got Denim, and he is one of the other characters returning from the original Gundam series, a Zeon soldier who went in to initially investigate Side 7, I think it was, where, of course, the original Gundam was. In this particular instance, in this particular version of events, he does go in with Char, but in the original, he went in with Jean, and we all know all the stuff that went down there. But I do like Denim. I liked him in the original series as well. He's just like a tried and true, tested kind of soldier who, you know, has smarts to him. He's not trying to reach the top, but he kind of knows his place and knows what's right for the mission and what's right for the objective trying to be achieved. And I do definitely like his kind of dynamic and back and forth with Char. I think that's just like pretty solid. They both seem to have a certain respect for each other, which I always love seeing between soldiers in fiction. So I'm going to put Denim at the bottom of B, but I thought it was a solid addition here. And next up, we got Dr. Flanagan, of course, from the Flanagan Institute, where they were researching new types and such. He has a brief appearance in this, and it was one of the more interesting scenes, I gotta say, like just listening to people talk about new types, particularly Char and Dr. Flanagan. I think there's a good back and forth there where it's two people that kind of understand that the world is changing in a way with the kind of discovery of new types. So I thought that was a very interesting conversation to see, and that's the only scene that is in. There's no kind of negatives because he's in one scene and that scene was really good, but he's also only in one scene. So we are going to go C, but I'm going to put him at the top. Then we've got Dren, who is a Zeon commanding officer type. I think he's with Char on one of the ships. He's fine. I'm going to put him in C because there's not a whole lot to him. I know he was in the original series. I think I'm going to put him in front of Conch, actually. He is just the typical commanding officer. There's nothing truly exciting about him. Now we move on to Jezzy, one of the other members of the Pomeranians clan. I thought he was a solid addition. I'm not truly amazed by his character though. I guess he's got a little bit more to do than some of the other members. I did particularly like the scene where he was sat in the cockpit of his Zaku, and then Amate kind of jumps in. They're all rolling about everywhere. I think there's potentially like a fun dynamic to have between those two characters, but so far Jezzy's not super impressive. But at the same time, he's solid enough. So I'm going to put him in C. I think I'm going to put him above Dr. Flanagan just purely because he has a lot more screen time. But I thought that Dr. Flanagan's scene was probably better than any scene that Jezzy had. Another member of the Pomeranians, we've got Kane. Nothing really going on with this character, like he wasn't a standout whatsoever. I quite like his character design, but that's about it. So we are going to go D. I think I'm going to put him in front of Cameron Bloom just because Cameron's a fairly boring character, and at least Kane's got a decent character design going for him. But in terms of actual characterization, really nothing there. Now we'll move on to Challia Zabi, one of the major antagonists, and I guess ultimately ends up being like the main remaining villain, if you will, in the original Mobile Suit Gundam series. And she does make a, I want to say a brief appearance, but it's quite a substantial one within that kind of 1 year war section. And you can't go wrong with Challia Zabi. She is like a really solid antagonist who is not like as crazy as some of the other Zabis, but kind of has that, essence of being capable within a war, if that makes sense. Like, she's a capable leader. So yeah, I think she's probably would have been the best candidate to actually kind of lead Zeon ultimately, which is how things seem to have ended up in GQuuuuuuX. But yeah, like in terms of her role and her appearance that she makes, solid. Like, it's the usual Challia Zabi. There's nothing really like added or improved from the original series. They call back to a lot of stuff in there as well. The fact that she knows who Char is, and all that kind of stuff. So seeing her back was great. But I'm going to go and see. I think I'm going to put her right at the top. And following that up, we got her right-hand man in Mecha. This is not like an indication of my thoughts on him in the original series. I think he's really good there. But in terms of this, he appears in essentially a shot. Like, it's barely a cameo appearance. So we are going to sit him in D. Obviously, all the stuff that comes from the original series that's going to, put him to the top just because there's a little bit of background that makes me like him more than these. But in terms of what we see in GQuuuuuuX, practically nothing. All we know is that I think he's leading the military or something within the present day. So it'll be very interesting to see if he actually does show up and see what they actually do with the character. And now I believe we've got our final member of the Pomeranians, and that is Nabu. Again, much like with Kane and to Jezzy to a degree as well, a fairly nothing character that there's definitely room where they could do some stuff with him, but as it stands, I really don't care about this character, so I'm actually going to put him behind Kane just because he's got a more boring character design. Moving on to a much more exciting character, we've got Nyaan, who is kind of set up as a bit of a co-lead. You've kind of got like 3 characters here that are almost like a joint trio of protagonists, where you've got Amate, Nyaan, and Shuji. And I thought Nyaan was solid. I think there's a lot you could do with this character. There's a lot of backstory that they could dig into, and how she's essentially a war orphan. I think there's a lot of stuff they could do. They just haven't explored a lot of it yet. So a lot of what I like about this character is kind of coming off of the potential there. And it's the same with a lot of characters here, where my kind of ranking of where I've placed them is largely dependent on how they've been set up and the potential they have within the story. And I think Nyaan is one of those like really great characters in that regard. So I'm going to put it right at the top of B. Just when I thought we would finish with the Pomeranians, we've actually got its mascot, and that is Pomeranian. It's a derpy looking purple dog. Like, it doesn't do anything, it's just a dog. But we're still going to put it in C. I'm going to put it above Conch just because of how derpy looking and funny it looks. But at the end of the day, it's a dog that exists. It's not going to have any characterization. And now we've got our final member of the main trio, and that is Shuji Ito. A lot of really interesting stuff that they could do with this character. The way that they have set him up, I think, is very, very intriguing. Now, is he the person that escaped from the Flanagan Institute? How did he get hold of the Red Gundam? What's his relationship with Char in this circumstance? This is one of the most intriguing characters because there's so much mystery and questions surrounding him, but he's also a bit of a derpy character in a way, and that makes him really fun because you can tell that this guy has a lot going for him in terms of how smart he might be in some areas, but he's also kind of silly and dumb in many ways as well, and I think that perfectly complements Amate's personality, and then nicely kind of goes up against Nyan's more like straightforward personality. So I think there's a lot of fun dynamic there with these this trio. But Shuji's probably the one character in this show where there's so much they could do with him. They could really deliver with this character. It just depends really on what they do. And so far, there's just intrigue. Like, there's no answers, but there's so much intrigue with this character that I am so excited to see where they go. So I'm going to put him at the top of B. And now we've got Amate's mum, Tamaki Yuzuriha. I'm instantly just going to put her in D, but I'm going to put her at the top. There's maybe some stuff that could be done with this character. Her kind of ties with the, government, if you will, of Side 6. So there's things that could be done here. As it stands, though, she barely appears in this series. I don't really know what the dynamic and relationship is between her and Amate. I really hope that they do explore that a little bit more, but I'm not sure how much room there is in the series to do that. But it'll be interesting to see nonetheless. But as it stands, within this like set of episodes, they don't do anything with it. And now we've got the White Harrow. This might be one of my favorite Harrows that we've ever had within the Gundam franchise. I love the appearance of it, like a White Harrow with a purple beanie on. As soon as I saw that in the first trailer, I was like, I love that thing. That is such a cool idea. Why have we never seen this before? And it just adds a lot more personality to it. Also, I think there's a hell of a lot more going on with this White Harrow because it seems to know a lot more stuff than it kind of lets on, like about the GQuuuuuuX, about, you know, potentially new type stuff. And there's something here, like what are the origins of this Harrow? I feel like there is stuff that could be explored. I'm not going to set myself up and say that like I want to see lots more from this because I have a feeling that there's really nothing there, but at the same time there could be something there. So it's a very interesting scenario. So I'm actually going to put this one in B, but we are going to go at the bottom. And then last but not least, we have Xavier Olivet. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And this was definitely one of the biggest surprises in terms of GQuuuuuuX's beginning for me, because I didn't really go into this series like expecting much from this character. I know we'd seen a little bit of him in the trailer, but he really surprised me and he seems to play a major role. And I'm very excited to see what else they do with this character, because he was piloting the GQuuuuuuX initially, kind of fails at that. He also is a new type. He's kind of like the top at the Flanagan Institute, so I think there's a lot of backstory they could explore here, but also just in terms of what we've been presented, we seem to know like a good amount about this character so far. I'm really interested in him. I'm interested to see how they go with certain places with him, because there was a bit like in the most recent promotional reel where he was running away in back alleys, so be interested to see if he potentially betrays Zeon. I think there's a lot they could do with this character. There's a lot they've set him up for. So he's one of the characters where initially I wasn't expecting anything from him, but now he's one of the more intriguing ones, like alongside Shuji and Challia Bull, of course, where I'm interested to know what they're going to do with this character. So I'm actually going to put him into A. And before we end off, I'm going to move some things around a little bit, because I'm going to move Shuji up to A as well, just purely because of the intrigue of this character and the personality. And I think that's going to end things off. So there we have it. That was my character tier list for Mobile Suit Gundam GQuuuuuuX beginning. Before I get out of here, please do leave a like on this video and subscribe if you are a fan of mecha anime content and want to see plenty more videos like this in the future. Also, like I said earlier, head on down to the comment section below. Let me know your favorite characters from GQuuuuuuX's beginning. Which ones are you most excited to see as the series does progress on? And stay tuned, because I will have a Mobile Suit tier list for GQuuuuuuX's beginning coming very soon. We're also about a week away from the premiere of the series itself, so plenty more GQuuuuuuX videos on the horizon. Thank you once again for tuning into Mecha Chat today, and I'll see you guys next time.